how can I make my own ancestral skincare? And I'm also going to tell you this isn't mine either. I stole this too. I stole it from a farmer in Colorado. And I've got this secret, because I stole it, so it's mine, right? The secret, excellent way of rendering animal fats, which is not very known. So I'm going to share that with you, and you can see if you like it or not. These are the steps for making your own ancestral skincare. Don't let this scare you. First of all, on our website, I'm not plugging my website, but I'm going to mention at vintagetradition.com, we have all the steps with pictures. So don't worry about taking lots of notes in this section, okay, because it's all there. So don't sweat the details. But this really just boils down to 2 steps. Number 1, get tallow. Number 2, put it on your skin. Maybe mix something in if you want it to be softer, if you want to smell a little nicer. Those are the 2 steps. It's really that easy, but we're going to go through each step. So this is if you're going to render the tallow yourself. You can buy tallow, but I'm not aware of any tallows out there that are made exclusively from the suet, that interior fat. They use all the fat, which is good. It's better than wasting it, right? But it's not going to be as highly saturated. It's not going to be as high in nutrients. That's a piece of suet right there, okay? You can tell suet from what the butchers call trim fat. Trim fat's off the side of the steak, right? Just underneath the skin. You can tell the difference because suet is big and round, see that? And it's long. And trim fat is always little thin strips, and it has meat attached to it usually, some meat still attached to it. So that's suet. You want to cut it up into little bite-sized pieces, and you want to exclude anything that's not white. It's that easy. Just ask your farmer for some suet. A lot of times they throw it away. They throw it away. Sometimes, they use some of it in the ground beef, and depending on how fatty their customers like their ground beef to be, then they throw it away. The rest away. Step number 2, put it in a colander or a steamer or anything with holes. This is a spaghetti strainer. Now that's about 8 pounds or 4 kilograms of suet right there. And that produces about 1 gallon of tallow. Okay, so that's kind of a lot, maybe for most, well, not for me. I eat a lot of tallow too. So cut it up, put it in there. That amount is going to take about 12 to 18 hours to render with the method that I'm about to show you. So then you want to put that steamer over another pot, and you want to have some space between the bottom of the steamer and the bottom of the pot, because that's where your tallow is going to collect. And you don't want the tallow to rise up into the suet that you're getting the tallow out of. Okay? And you're going to put it in an oven at 220 or 105 Celsius for our Canadian friends. And why this temperature? It's just a little above boiling. Make sure you get all that moisture out. We don't want the moisture.
So you don't kill the minerals.
And so you don't ruin all the nutrients. Exactly. We want the temperature low enough that we can get all the tallow out, get all the water out, and keep all the nutrients. And did you have a question about this very slide, or can we save it to the end? Okay.
So what if you don't have an oven? Can you use a dehydrator?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, yeah, if your dehydrator get warm enough. Tallow has a pretty high melting point, so your dehydrator needs to get close to that, and if it can, yeah, great, absolutely. Now, 2 or 3 times during the process, during the rendering, you just mash it with a potato masher or something, just to get all of that tallow out of there. The other thing I was going to mention about the temperature is it's high enough to get all the tallow out, but it's low enough that you're not going to scorch the tallow. So the other methods where you throw everything in a pot and you put it over heat, there's that danger of scorching it. Okay, and that's going to ruin the nutrients, like this lady just pointed out, and it gives it a bad scent and taste. And the beauty of that temperature is you're not going to have that issue. All right. And once everyone knows, most of you I'm sure know that what's left in this steamer, or whatever you're using, is called cracklings, right? Cracklings. Once the cracklings are dry, you're going to remove your colander, and you're going to pour the tallow through another colander into another pot, through a nice organic cotton cloth, cheesecloth, something actually finer than cheesecloth, frankly, just to get all those little bits of crackling out of it. Okay, and when you do that, you're going to have this pot of this beautiful golden liquid gold. Okay, this is what, on the left, there's the tallow before it's room temperature. While it's still warm. And then on the right is at room temperature. So as you can see, when it solidifies, it turns whitish. Sometimes can be a little more yellow than white. And it's like wax. They used to make candles out of it. Okay. And so that brings me back to someone's question back here. How do we keep it? How do we make it keep? There are 4 things that make fats, animal fats in particular, go rancid. 4 things: light, heat, moisture, and air, oxygen. Okay? So we took care of the moisture because we had the temperature high enough to get all of the water out of it. It all evaporated off. We got no water to deal with. It's got no moisture to deal with. So then if we put it in a container that we can seal airtight, we're taking care of the air issue, the oxygen issue. And then we store it in a cool, dark place. Then we take care of the heat and the light. Tallow will keep that way for years, minimum of a year. So it really has to do with the rendering method as well. If you're just pulling the tallow off the top of your stalk or whatever, that's got a lot of moisture in it, and it's not going to keep that long, and it's going to go moldy. This way, it will not. So you make your skincare out of this, and you keep that jar sealed. When you're not using it, it's going to keep for a couple years if you keep it cool.
I just wanted to clarify, when you put the first colander over a pot, is there water in that pot, or is that...
No. This is a dry rendering method. There's dry rendering and wet rendering. And the reason I don't recommend wet rendering, which is where you put some water in there, the purpose of the water is to keep it from scorching. Because that's always the danger. And if you got water, it's never going to go above 212, right? So you're not going to scorch it. But then you got all this water to deal with, and you have to try to get it out somehow. Because if you don't, it's going to go rancid, and it's going to go moldy. Okay? So that's what you want to do, Ronce.
How long did that process take?
Okay, so for that 4 kilograms, for that 8 pounds of fat that I showed you, it's 12 to 18 hours in the oven. And you mash it once or twice. The nice thing is you don't have to babysit it because it can't scorch at that temperature. So you don't have to babysit. All you have to do is mash it once or 2 or 3 times during the process. Yes? I know some people that use slow cookers, and it just depends on how it's calibrated. If some of them are pretty hot, even on low, and it'll scorch. So a friend of mine has one. She says it works great. It works great because it just happens to be calibrated at a good temperature. It never scorches, and it gets all the tallow out. So that's kind of hit or miss. So but this is so easy. That's why I love this method. Okay, so now you have your tallow, or you can buy it. And even though the store-bought, if you get it from a quality 100% grass-fed, it's not going to be from the suet, but you can still use that, so you don't have to render it yourself. I'm not saying you have to render it yourself. So you want to melt that tallow, and you don't want to melt it at too high a temperature, maybe 100 degrees, somewhere around there, 43 degrees Celsius, because again, we don't want to kill the other nutrients that we're about to add. So now you can, if you want, you can use the tallow straight on your skin, of course. It's going to take a little work to warm it up and work it into your skin because it is waxy. So if you add a little olive oil or some other liquid oil that you enjoy and that's good for the skin, olive oil has a long tradition of being amazing for the skin. And maybe add some essential oils that you like or also are therapeutic to the skin. Okay, not a lot. You want this mainly to be tallow. And then you can pour it into jars. Let it solidify in the fridge because you're going to get a smoother consistency. If it solidifies on the counter, it could tend to be grainy. Okay? So do it in the fridge, and then you've got your homemade Tallow Balm that you know where everything came from, and you know it's going to help your skin rather than poison you.